Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're well. I have a pretty fun video for you today. It's an approach that I want to show you that is meant to make you think a little bit more outside the box. You're going to learn how to get more interesting sounds, and maybe you're also going to learn a little bit more about what your favorite players are actually playing. So what we're going to do is follow the grain of harmony. Does harmony have grain like wood has grain, right? We'll find out. In order to teach you that approach, I'll first do a quick review of how chords are formed, because we need that to understand it. So when we learn chords, the first thing we learn is that chords are formed in intervals of thirds, right? So if I take a major 7 chord, we realize we have a bunch of thirds stacked together. A major 7 chord specifically would be a root, from there a third, a major third, then a perfect fifth, and then a major 7th. And when we learn these chords, what we usually do is we just repeat octaves, right? After the 7th, we go to the octave. And that's how we learn all of the chord tones of that specific chord on the guitar, the piano, etc., right? You can do that with, let's do it with the minor 7, A flat minor 7, right? The formula for this chord is a root, minor third, perfect fifth, and a minor 7. Right? And then go to the octave, etc. Okay? So chords are formed in thirds. And after the 7th, we go to the octave. But for most chords, or the most important chords, there's something that we're ignoring when we build the chords in this way. And ignoring this kind of prevents us from really discovering the most interesting sounds you can play, in my opinion. So let me show you what I mean. Let's go back to that major 7 chord and let's see if there's a pattern, if there's a grain in the way we are stacking those chord tones. From the root to the third, there's a major third. From the third to the 5th, there's a minor third. From the 5th to the 7th, there is a major third. Normally, to go to the octave there's a minor 2nd. But we have just broken that grain. We didn't follow the grain. Why? Because if you saw it briefly, there was a major third, minor third, major third. Shouldn't it be a minor third next? Let's try. Normally in harmony, when we learn chords, we learn that this is a 9th, right? This is a color, a tension. Different words for the same thing. It is just a color on the major chord. It's one of the acceptable chords for that quality. But in this approach, let's not call it a color or a tension. Let's call it the next chord tone. Check it out. Why not? If these are chord tones following, that grain, this should be the next chord tone. And this is an important observation because we realize that we learn harmony in 1 octave, but it's harmony in 1 octave. I don't think so. So let's keep going. We get this nice chord tone, which is the 9th. So in this approach, we're going to interpret it as a new chord tone, the 9th. The 9th is the same as the 2nd note of the scale. Okay? So let's see what happens next. So major third, minor third, major third, minor third. Major third should be next. Okay, we get that sharp 11, right? And here we're seeing it as a chord tone. Not a tension. It is a tension normally. That's how we learn it in school. But it is a chord tone following the grain. The next is 13, right? Another chord tone. 13 is the same as 6. Sharp 11 was the same as sharp 4. Okay? So let's keep going. This is the next chord tone. That is a flat 9. Flat 9 doesn't work. If you know a little bit about harmony, you probably know that flat 9 is not a sound that works with major. And that is true, but look at where that chord tone that we're calling is happening. This flat 9 wasn't here, right? If you play it there, it's not a chord tone yet. That's not where the chord tone happens. Dissonance. But if you play it here, what's happening is that the farther we get from the fundamental frequency, our brain is interpreting those notes more as effects, and the effect of a dissonance is diminished there. Not diminished the quality. It's lessened. It's what I meant. So again, the farther away we get from the root, the less we hear that as a dissonance. So that's why those weird notes start sounding less dissonant at that point. Here's a major 7 flat 9 chord. This is the flat 9. But with all of that space in between and all of these notes, that color, the dissonance is a little bit less there. And of course, it's subjective. A lot of people say, well, this still sounds pretty weird to me. I mean, look at that. To me, that sounds beautiful. And that's a major 7 flat 9 chord. But that's where the flat 9 is, and that's the separation we need. Anyway, so we were here. Flat 9 is a chord tone there. Right? Let's keep going. We were major third. Now let's go minor third. So here's the third. Okay, that is an actual chord tone. Now major third. So we get flat 13 as a chord tone for a major chord. Right? So minor third again. Okay, this is the major 7. Now major third. That's a minor third for the chord tone there. Right? Etc. Right? You can keep going forever and find pretty much all the notes becoming chord tones. So these are all the interesting chord tones that we can get if we follow the grain of harmony. Now I want you to see this as distant relatives. It doesn't mean that because we learned that the flat 9 is one of those chord tones, you're going to go and play the flat 9 on a major chord, right? We need that separation and that intention of how it's being played so that it works and it lessens the harmony, the dissonance for our brain. That's what makes it work, okay? So what I'm going to show you now is how to use it, how to practice it, so that you don't end up playing that flat 9 in the wrong place. What I like to do, and I'll give you a couple of examples of how Wes, Miles, Jim Hall used it. So what I like to do is transform everything into minor because it's just easier to follow the minor grain for me. And I mostly base these color palettes, that I call them that, on the A and D strings. You could also do it on any string and just follow there, but that's how I practice it. So let's make everything into minor. So that G major 7 chord, if I wanted to play that color palette, follow the grain on that, I have to transform it into minor, so that would become A minor. Okay? Let's do a minor chord. If that was G minor, just do it on the root. Okay? Let's do a dominant chord. If that was a dominant chord, natural dominant, not altered, find the related to. Related to is if that was the dominant of a 2-5, which would be the 2, sub a perfect fifth. So it would be D minor. Okay? If I want to alter this dominant, say I want that sound, then usually I think up a half step. So I'm building my color palette of following the grain on A flat for that G. Okay, that would be the altered dominant sound. And if that chord was a minor 7 flat 5, I just look at the upper structure, which is a B flat minor, and do a B flat minor grain. So you have to practice the line, right? Take, for example, E minor and practice that a lot until you kind of get a little bit of muscle memory following that minor third, major third, minor third, major third. Start with the sounds that you get at the beginning. And then start expanding. So if I have a tune, for example, like Woody and Jew that has G minor 7 flat 5, C7, then those 2 5s repeat down a whole step. F minor 7 flat 5, B flat, E minor 7 flat 5, A flat, right? I could think That was B flat minor for that chord. And then I voice lead into the alteration for that C7 up a half step. So my changes there would be B flat minor line to that C sharp minor line. Then here would be this chord, the F minor 7 flat 5, would become A flat minor. And then I'm following B minor line. I'm calling the minor line this grand structure that I'm talking about. Okay? And for this chord, I would have it would be on F sharp for this chord. And the alteration for this, it would be on A. So I'm voice leading those sounds. Bridge starts with a minor line there. And the alteration, it's D minor. So A section again. Etc. So that's how you can transform everything pretty much into this color palette. And I started practicing this because I saw West, that's how West pretty much organizes his color palette a lot of the time. Jim Hall, Miles. There's a tune where Miles goes, is a blues. And he plays this note. That note is A major note, sorry. It's A, right? And it's a B flat blues. A doesn't work for B flat. At least if you're thinking of scales, you're never going to play an A for a B flat dominant chord. So, how is he playing that? One possibility is, well, he's just looking at that as a major 7 chord, which is common for blues, right? For Charlie Parker, made the first chord a major chord a lot of the times. But Miles plays a lot of that grain. So that's why for B flat, the minor line would start on F. And you get that A note at that point for that B flat chord. And if you listen to Wes again, you're familiar with that sound, right? Organizing those colors in that way. You know, that kind of thing. He does it all the time. Benson, Jim Hall, you know. That's kind of like that structure of sounds. Anyway, I just wanted to show you a way to explore some really interesting, amazing sounds that you're not going to find necessarily with a scale. You got to look at chords and pay attention to what you're playing. You need to observe, sing things to start playing things that are a little bit more outside the box, but that are more connected to the sounds you're really into, and that you might not know necessarily how to access, right, with some approaches, etc. Anyway, this might be a little bit of a long video, but I apologize for that. I just need the time to explain it, and I hope you get something out of it. If you liked it, please subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.